September 3rd, 2025, St. John Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. Can everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call.
Drago Popovich is absent. Rudy Bambick.
Here.
Nico Vlahos is absent. John Gill.
Here.
Chris Griesbaum.
Here.
Adam Decker.
Here.
Bill Manosopoulos is absent. Ashley Abernathy present.
All right, we'll move on to item number 4, meeting minutes from August 6th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve the August 6, 2025 meeting minutes as posted.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Okay, we'll move on to public hearings. A, 2025-16, Balsitis, developmental variance request from St. John to allow for the construction of a new detached garage on a lot without a primary structure located at 9750 Acorn Drive. Joseph and Rachel Balsitis are the owner.
Good afternoon. I'm actually the contractor for the homeowners. My name is Eamon from the Garage Guys. We're proposing to put this garage up. It has an existing driveway there now. It will be immediately across from the existing attached garage. As you can see on the survey, this driveway isn't shown, but it is existing. The apron it shows there to the left of the garage. So as you're pulling up, you'll be turning right into the garage. Where that white vehicle is actually where the garage will be placed.
So the reason for the request for the lot without a primary structure is while they own both of the lots that is shown on the survey here, this lot here does not have a primary structure, and while they combined it by way of tax ID, that does not combine it into a one-lot subdivision. So that's what's triggering the request for building the structure on a lot without a primary structure. The garage itself, we do require any detached garage get a variance, a developmental variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals. Otherwise, they're meeting all other setback requirements required by an accessory structure. They're going to make the garage look similar to the house in architectural styles with a stone veneer front, vinyl siding, shilling roof, and then again, they're just the size of the garage as well because that is greater than the 160 square feet or 250 square feet for accessory structure.
Any remonstrance letters on this?
Nothing was received for this one, but I'm not sure if any of the members of the public are here for this item or our other item for public hearing.
I don't have any questions.
Yes, yes, we are.
Hold on, sir.
Sure, thank you.
Do you have any other questions, Paul?
No, it's pretty
It's
straightforward.
pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna open it up to public hearing and see what people have to say. All right, this time I'll open it up to public hearing. Anyone that wants to talk, come up and state your name and address at the podium.
My name is Andre Zayach. We live at 9724 Acorn Drive. We are the next door neighbors. In the pictures that were shown, our house and our detached garage was the structure that was seen. Just wanted to, really for the contractor, just to specify, it's been 30 years since that lot line has been surveyed, and just wanted to make sure that that would be properly reestablished to make sure there'd be no conflict or questions down the road.
I can't speak for the rest of the town, but I'm sure to obtain the permit, they have to have that.
Yeah, they're showing a 10-foot setback, which a garage would only have to be 5 by ordinance. So, I mean, they have a 5-foot buffer over what they need to be, if they do go with
Right.
the 10. But, I mean, they could
Sure.
look for the pin. I mean, I'll let him speak, but
No, that's just the.
they're
just the-
double what the minimum is for the garage
Right.
setback from the property line.
Our detached garage is 5 feet from the property line when it was built back in '96.
Okay.
So that was just the only concern, that don't have any issues with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, at this time, I'm going to close public hearing. You guys have any, you gentlemen have any other questions?
No, I don't.
I don't have any issues with it.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the variance request for STJMC 24-91, 24-461, and 24-462. Approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare of the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner, and the strict application of the terms of zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties with the use of the property.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
All right, we'll move on to B on the agenda, 2025-17, Manhani. Use variance and developmental variance request. To allow construction of a gas station within the C2 and US 41 overlay district. To allow accessory building, fuel canopy that is not architecturally compatible with the principal building. To allow parking immediately in front of the convenience store. To allow the convenience store building to front US 41. To allow a minimum building size of 4,500 square foot, 10,500 square less than allowable in the US 41 overlay. District to allow no bicycle parking within the US 41 overlay district, to allow no bicycle and pedestrian access as required in the US 41 overlay district, to allow a parcel to not have a frontage road system that provides access roads to contiguous tracks as required within the US 41 overlay district, to allow a refuse storage structure to be fully enclosed but without a roof, to allow a front yard encroachment of 24 feet with a fueling canopy, to allow no screening requirements on the east property boundary, to allow no bicycle and pedestrian path construction, to allow no street trees within the right-of-way, to allow no buffer yard requirements on the east property boundary, to allow no side and rear yard buffering requirements, to allow no green belt along the US 41 right-of-way, to allow no planting area requirements surrounding the building, to allow no parking lot perimeter planting requirements, to allow no parking lot interior planting requirements, to allow the gross combined sign area to be 200 square foot, 100 foot in excess of allowable, to allow for the monument sign of 80 square foot, 50 square foot larger than allowable, to allow 2 wall signs and 1 ground sign located at 8575 south of Wicker Avenue. Shamir Manhani is the applicant, Barry Levin is the owner, Russ Posen is the DVG team engineer.
I'm filling in for Russ tonight. My name is James Huss with DVG team. I know I've been here before you. Mr. Manhani is here tonight, as well as the architect with WT Group, if there's any questions that come up on the building, and then any questions about the tanks as well. The parcel is unaddressed. It's on the east side of US 41, at the northeast corner of 85th Avenue in US 41. This is what the undeveloped land between 41 and Bingo Lake. A lot south of Speedway and a few lots south of Scooters, which is recently constructed. First, a bit about the petitioner. Mr. Manhani operates a total of 12 quick-run gas station and convenience stores in Indiana and Illinois. Some of his recent builds in Lake County. One is at 9337 Indianapolis Boulevard in Highland, which is finished. It was completed last year. If anybody travels down the boulevard and wants to take a look at it, I think it's a particularly good-looking store. He also has construction well underway at 5601 US 30 in Cherville. That's at the southwest corner of US 30 and Burr. I simply mention those to demonstrate his commitment to the area, the number of stores that he locally operates and manages. He is also a St. John resident and a Lake Central parent, so we're not dealing with a national brand, a true member of the community. Each of his locations are otherwise standard gas stations. Some newer sites have EV charging stations and attractive, modern interiors to the convenience stores. His baseline exterior finishes on his building, which I believe there are renderings in your packets, already meet the high standards that the town of St. John sets in their overlay districts, which is where we're talking about tonight. Some of his locations also serve an auxiliary user, which is the intent for this property, in that it would have a drive-through operation on the side and queuing in the rear of the building. While the user for this location, if it does come to fruition, is not yet known, you can picture something like a Wingstop or a Ziggy's Coffee. That's a new brand, but picture something like that. His typical store hours are 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., and typically he will allow gasoline sales via credit card for 24 hours. But the convenience store is not. As the agenda lists tonight, we have quite a few requests before the board, which is often typical in the overlay district. So if you would entertain, I'm going to try to go through them one by one as succinctly as possible on what we are requesting, more importantly, why. And I hope at the end you'll agree with me that some of them are not so much wants, but some are more needs given the particulars of the lot size, the intended use, and I'll kind of leave it at that. I'll also point out that this parcel is challenging, and this BZA hearing tonight is just one of many due diligence items to determine the feasibility from a property. It is very important, but hopefully pending favorable findings tonight, we still have a number of items to proceed with and the costs associated with them, most importantly, a flood study or BFE study for Bingo Lake that, of course, would be submitted to the town's engineer for their review and concurrence with. The site acreage, just for a baseline, it's a 3.5 acre site with an estimate of only about 1.75 acres of usable land, given that there is a pipeline easement cutting through the northern third of the property, and we will still be laying off land for stormwater detention, which is going to crunch the site plan down to the south, as is on the screen. The first item we are requesting is would be a favorable recommendation to town council for a use variance to allow a gas station to be built on the property. In section 2445 of the town's code, gas stations are not even listed, which means the town reserves the right to allow a gas station only where they please, and any gas station that's built in St. John would require to come before you for this use variance. So I'll just simply state that. That's what we are requesting. We are requesting to construct a gas station on this property. Following on that, there are 23 in total development standards variants. I will go in order, although there's a number of topics. I believe the first 11 are something that any petitioner for this property would be asking for something similar. So the first one we are requesting is that an accessory building be allowed on a C2 zone lot. Given that the town code does not speak on gas stations, they also do not speak on whether a canopy would be classified as an accessory structure. So to cover that base, that is our first variance we are requesting. Our second variance request, 24346, is peculiar to the overlay district. It requires that parking be located to the rear and the side of the building. Gas stations and convenience stores traditionally have parking immediately at the building frontage and at the gasoline pumps. I don't think I've ever seen a gasoline station where their convenience store faces the road and shields the canopy both from an adverse. So that's a critical component to the success of a gas station and convenience store, is that we would need to orientate the site opposite what the overlay district requires. The next overlay district is 243461. The overlay district requires that the building be positioned closer to the road and that parking is then shielded by the building. Again, this is, would be requested by any gas station on this property, given that visibility is critical to a gas station, and we run counter to the overlay district's requirement. The fourth is related to building size. The overlay district requires a minimum 15,000 square foot building. As we touched on before, the parcel is 3.5 acres, but functionally 1.75. So given the detention requirements, that pipeline easements, the unusable land north of the easement, space required for a fuel canopy, then building a 15,000 square foot building would likely either create a parking issue, a stormwater management issue, or a combination of both, and it would also be far larger than is needed to operate a convenience store with one auxiliary user. I know we've had that building size come up on a handful of lots in past petitions. The next variance we're requesting is 24347B. The overlay district requirements do not allow parking between the front setback or building line and the right-of-way line. While we do not explicitly violate this with a true parking stall, a lot of municipalities that do allow gas stations under some permitted use in a permitted zoning will oftentimes count pump stalls towards a site's parking count, and our fuel canopy does cross the front setback line. So that is why we were requesting that variance. But again, there will not be any traditionally striped parking spots that violate that rule on US 41. The sixth variance is kind of the direct access be provided from the street to the direct access to be provided for pedestrians from the street to the building's primary entrance. You'll see on the site plan we are not proposing sidewalks for a couple different reasons. In some past waiver hearings or plats discussions, there's been discussions on US 41 specifically only to its east side, in that there is a fully built-out pedestrian network on the west side of 41, but next to nothing on the east. Think of the scooters. I know it was before Plan Commission, but there's a sidewalk waiver in that. Because there's no network, I think there's a benefit to not building anything and thus encouraging pedestrian. We wouldn't want to encourage pedestrian use on the east side of US 41, especially not for a single lot when there would be nowhere for a pedestrian to go other than this lot. There's also complications on 85th Avenue, given that we have the turn lanes, and that we couldn't really cross them anywhere but at Coling Road, which is also not a stopped intersection. Those are two quasi-safety reasons that we are not providing access. The final reason we are not proposing the sidewalks is there is a 5-foot box culvert that crosses US 41 about 2/3 away up to the pump canopy, and that transfers into an open ditch on the 41 boundary and then curls around along the north side of 85th and then empties into Bingo Lake. So that ditch is going to be maintained under the site plan, which is going to rob area for which to put sidewalk if we were granted this variance. Again, not just simply saying why, the pros and cons to that variance. The next variance is related to bicycle parking. Providing bicycle parking on the site is easy enough. It's just more of a matter of questioning whether we want to encourage that. So my reasoning to not provide that are the same as the prior variance. There is section 24353. It's similar language. It's tailored more towards a multi-lot development or a planned unit development, saying that you should incorporate pedestrian access, bicycle access, and other site circulation amenities into a greater development. We're asking for that variance simply because this is a single lot development, and there's no opportunity to really honor the spirit of that requirement. Similarly, section 24354 talks about frontage road systems to be established, joining lots together. We can't really adhere to that because we're kind of landlocked. We're up against two roads. We have a pipeline easement and we have a lake. So there would be no reason to provide a frontage road to no touching users. So we're asking for a variance on that. The 10th variance is related to dumpster enclosures. That comes up quite often. We're simply asking that the dumpster enclosure be otherwise compatible with the building, but not contain a roof for operational issues. And our last, more or less, I guess, ordinance variance, the front yard setback on US 41 is 60 feet. About 75% of our fueling canopy does comply with that setback, but what's peculiar with this property is that the right-of-way line on US 41 is very, very eccentric. You can see a bump out where that culvert does come across. And typically, you will always orient a site truly parallel with the road, even if the right-of-way isn't, or with the right-of-way, but we don't really have a parallel line here, which because of that partition, that bump out in the right-of-way, we do violate the setback with the canopy. Scooting back, I should say, if it wasn't for that eccentric right-of-way line, we would have gladly orientated our canopy at that setback line. But I still think it's worth noting that most of our canopy is. Now, the bulk of the remaining items are related to landscape and signage, which I do know are very sensitive items to the town. While I know it won't be verified by this board, it will be verified by Plan Commission. The petitioner and I both know the importance of this issue, and that will be demonstrated on a future landscaping plan to adhere as closely as we possibly can with the land available. If we get that far as we go through the flood study, after we hopefully get through this hearing with the variances we need tonight. So our first landscaping variance is section 516E2. That ordinance speaks to requiring to screen the property line adjacent to different land uses. In the northeast corner of the property there's a townhome development which technically classifies as a residential use. And then the east property line, which is also a lake. So we're asking for, given that we're not doing anything in the north section of the property at all, you can see we don't intend to develop or do any work in the northern 150 to 200 feet. We are asking for a variance on screening requirements on the lakeside and the northeast corner, which is adjacent to residential.
Why not do any screening on the side of the pond, the proposed detention basin?
We'd be screening against the pipeline easement. I'm not saying we couldn't. What I will say is that to the north side of the property, we're up against commercial again. It's really only the northeast, which is a ways away from where we're working.
But you are able to put screening along the detention basin by the pipeline easement.
Yes.
Yeah, it's within requirements. So that's why I'm asking, why not put the screening there on the north side of that detention basin and the northeast side of that detention basin for those townhouses?
We certainly can. It's just the only reason we're asking for the variance is because at that point we'd be screening something that's over 300 feet away.
It's still visible from those houses, though.
I understand your point, yes.
And if I was in that house, I would not want to see that, and I'd want to see some sort of screening, similar like with the hospital situation. So, Adam, if we were to come up with a happy medium there, could we propose something in that recommendation for plantings to be placed on that north and east side of that detention basin?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So when considering any application, the Board of Zoning Appeals can impose reasonable requirements upon an applicant as part of its consideration of the request that's being made.
Right.
So yes, certainly you have that legal authority to impose any reasonable requirements as part of any
Yeah. If we move forward,
consideration of approval.
you gentlemen agree, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, there should be some sort of screening here with.
yeah, if you go there, yeah, instead over there.
I
yeah.
do have two
Correct.
questions.
What's that?
I do have two questions, one for James and one for the board. James, do you happen to know where that pipeline is located in that pipeline easement?
I don't off the top of my head, no.
Okay. My other would be, I don't know if an arborvitae tree would be beneficial there because of the fact that we do have a petroleum pipeline running through there.
You only have to stay 6 foot off that easement.
With the planting, especially with, depending on the root of the ball of the
Correct.
tree?
Correct.
Okay. That was gonna be my other question is what
That's why
type
the
of screening
pipeline
you're
has a
wanting.
50-foot easement of their own.
That was gonna be my question, is what type of vegetation the board would like to see.
Remember, Ashley, I do this for a living as well.
You do, I just wanted to make sure we weren't gonna run into issues with root balls of trees, that's all.
You can keep going.
So the 13th variance is 2415E2. There is a mention in the landscaping ordinance about why it's in two places, I don't know, but there is a mention of providing bicycle and pedestrian access. I'll harken back to the explanation earlier.
I think that's self-explanatory with no sidewalks.
Okay. Section 24518D is related to shade trees, which I know is sensitive, so the basically requires shade trees, a certain amount of them, to be bordering streets, which would be 85th Avenue and US 41, obviously. We are requesting this variance not to be completely absolved of any tree requirements. I would obviously have to demonstrate that on a later landscaping plan, but the peculiarity of this site and the substantial ditch that's immediately broadside to 41 and 85th Avenue over almost the entirety of our frontage makes strictly adhering to the shade tree requirement very difficult. To then create space between the ditch and the pavement is, it would either then push us closer to Bingo Lake, pinch the site, or
On the 85th Avenue side, where is top of ditch in relation to the property line?
so obviously we have not, yeah, that's probably best. You can see the greenery right there. But it is harder to tell on the exhibit. I would estimate it's 10 to 15 feet off the right-of-way line.
And where's top of slope in relation to where your back of curb is proposed?
Ashley, can you go back to the site plan? So,
You mind if I walk over there with you? I'm talking more over here on 85th. I realize I'm 41, so, yeah, I can see that. So, in this area here, you do space for, yes. So it basically east of parking, you know, and obviously you're not gonna get all the way to the entrance because of top of slope, but.
Correct, and realistically, there's going to be a culvert.
Correct. But in this area here, there is adequate space.
There's space for some,
Yeah,
I'm
for
not, that's
sure.
what I mean, the full count I'm worried about.
And there's no signage going over here. So there is space in that corner as well.
I think there will be some space, I mean, it's providing the full number.
and that's where I get back to, I think, I'm not contending that hopefully in the near future you receive a plan commission submittal that I can commit that it will not show 0 trees on it. Obviously, part of the reason for this petition is to,
And the
Try
only
to-
reason
try
I
to
say that
catch
is
as much.
because in this, you're asking for no
and if,
shade trees, which I feel that's a little drastic because there is sufficient space for them.
and I understand that, I guess we're kind of running the balance
Yeah.
of, you know, just how the due diligence process works. If that was, if that was a variance that was not approved, I suppose we could come back. But given what I know now, that's why.
Right. And then I got a question, just more a curiosity question, is Has there been hydraulic calcs done? Is the detention basin overflow obviously gonna go to Bingo Lake?
Yes, because that's where the water
Has there
goes.
been
What-
hydraulic calcs? Can the parking lot, the detention basin overflow? Can Bingo Lake handle it? Because
So that
Bingo Lake is up pretty high a lot of the times.
That will be the very, post this hearing, if enough of what you're hearing tonight is found favorable, that will be the next critical path due diligence item to then, obviously, the owner to proceed with,
Right,
or the prospective owner.
okay. I was just curious. I didn't know if maybe a storm tech system or storm trap system would be better suited for that lake. You know what I mean? Being it's already at, looks like it's at a pretty high level. Anyway, I was just more a curiosity question.
Yeah, it'll be a flood elevation study, and it really will drive, there's a reason we're going in with a sketch today, because that has an expense to it, and that will drive what hopefully my firm will do after that's determined,
right.
to really, really, truly determine the feasibility of this property.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's what we're here for. The 15th variance is providing a residential buffer. Here, we are again talking about the extreme northeast corner. It's variance for the buffer. I know we have already had input on screening the pond may be sufficient, but that goes, it's kind of the same variance as the 12th. It's variance from screening the northeast corner, which is 150 or more feet away from where we are actually placing the development. The 16th variance is buffer yard screening requiring a 5-foot visual buffer to an adjacent property. We're requesting this variance because to the east, we don't really have a buffer on the west because it's a road, on the south because it's a road. To the east is Bingo Lake, which is essentially a buffer that's hundreds of feet, and we are, when you factor in the detention basin, we're not developing approximately the northern 260 feet of our lot before we would get to the next neighbor. The 17th variance, 24-525A1, is in the U.S. overlay landscaping ordinance. It requires a 30-foot green belt on US 41. We've already touched on the very eccentric right-of-way along 41, the presence of the ditch, the footprint of the site, the Bingo Lake factors. Providing a true 30-foot green belt, which starts at the right-of-way line, would be very, very difficult. As you can see on 85th, we get pinched, although that's not US 41 anymore. But providing that 30-foot green belt essentially pushes the footprint of the development almost into the lake, or very, very close to it. The 18th variance is 24-525C1. This code section requires foundation landscaping around the building, which would be, by my calculation today, about a 20-foot band around the building, which is essentially a parking spot. So again, strict adherence to this would flex the site up and either pinch the ditch or cause us to have to relocate things closer to the lake. That one would be very, very difficult to apply to this this use and development. The 19th variance is related. It's a US 41 landscaping ordinance. It requires a landscape strip 10 feet wide around the parking area, providing that in the totality of the site, given that we have the ditch, think on 85th Avenue, providing that landscape buffer. Eventually, we're going to get pinched by the ditch. And again, I realize this is a lot of landscaping ordinances, and I can't show you a final landscaping because there are so many questions still to answer at this property. But again, I'll just harken back. This is not to absolve anybody from beautifying this site to the standards of St. John. It's just identifying rules that we don't think we can strictly adhere to. The final landscaping-related variance we are requesting, it's for interior parking lot landscaping. This basically requires 5% of a parking area's square footage to be landscape islands. Gas stations blur the lines between what is a parking area and what is the development. They're not like a Target where it's a very easy calculation to make. So we do have some small landscaped areas around the building, but given the amount of, if you called the rest of the pavement parking, I'm fairly confident that we would not be able to get to this 5% ordinance and would strive to make up for it with landscaping on the exterior with the areas that are left down the road. That is the rest. We have 3 more to go. I would like Chris Kalashevsky to come up. He's from WT Group to touch on the reasons we are requesting the 3 very specific signage variances that we are tonight.
Again, Christian Kalashevsky from WT Group. We are the architects for the project. Thank you for patiently listening to us. One of the main things of this is, as you know, US 41 is a main commercial roadway. And as such, the United States Sign Council, which is endorsed by the American Planning Association, has very strict size requirements for signage for safety's sake. They call it the visual reaction time. And on 41, what is known in their language is known as a complex highway. It means it's more than just one lane each way. It means that a person needs to move from one lane to another to be able to pull out off the site. So their visual reaction time is a function of the complexity of the roadway, the speed of the roadway, and then also the distance to safely recognize a sign and pull over onto that site. As a result, if you do the calculations, it's just pure math with the visual reaction time, their square footage of a sign for an ID sign is 250 square feet. We're only asking for 80. Also, if you go into their details of what the sign, the numbers, quite frankly, when you're looking at a gas station sign, the most important thing is the price, just to be candid. And that's what people are looking for. And when you do their calculations, the size of the signage would be 26 to 28 inches tall. We're only asking for 15. So yes, we are asking for a variance over what your ordinance says, but we're well below what the United States Sign Council and the American Planning Association recommend as a safe sign. So in that context, that is why, and it was mentioned here, smaller signage is difficult to read quickly and easily while driving past. And so that really is the key for noticing the sign far enough away, safely maneuver over. The other variances in terms of, and that takes care of basically the 2 variances for the square footage of the ID sign and the square footage for the overall site of the sign. The other one is that the uniqueness of this is that the gas station is not just that. It's not just the gasoline canopy out there. We have a convenience store, which is a market, and then we also have a QSR of some sort, which is a small restaurant. So we really have 3 businesses on the site. And so we're asking for the number of wall signs to be allowed to identify the proper businesses. And so really with that, and overall with the site and that, the FAR ratio here, as you can see, over 50% of this site is all landscape area. And so the LSR ratio is way up there from what a typical LSR is. The FAR ratio is well below what's typical for a commercial development. So in light of that, we're just asking, we're not trying to put too much on the site, is what I'm trying to say. And so by asking for these variances, that is why we're making this request for the safety notification of our customers to the site, and then also the number of businesses that warrant the number of signs. Thank you.
And then just to touch on the letter of the law, the allotted signage for a lot would be 100 square feet. The variances we are requesting is a total of 200, and to arrive at that number, our monument sign, which is per ordinance, is 30 square foot allowable. We are requesting an 80 square foot monument sign, what would be an 80 square foot quick run wall sign, which is shown on many of the photos and renderings we've provided. And then to arrive at our 200, it would be an additional 40 square foot for a wall sign for that auxiliary user of the drive-through. But again, we do not have that fully illustrated simply because we don't know what the brand is. But and just the reason there's 3 variances there is because technically in the I believe it's the overlay district, a building can have 2 signs and they can choose what they want. So it can either be a monument sign and a wall sign or 2 wall signs. So because we're asking for 2 wall signs and a monument sign, the final variance is asking for a 3rd sign. And I do appreciate everybody's patience in allowing me to run through all those. Sure, yeah.
Just real quick, if we could just go to the photos of the existing facility. This facility is in Crest Hill, Illinois. Up there at the end there.
I think we got to, before the findings of fact.
I think I forgot to pull that one open. Give me a couple seconds.
But what we're trying to say is that the proportion of the signs, the wall signs, they're not a billboard on the building. It's all in relationship to the size of the building, the width and the height, so the proportions of the building are really driving the proportions of the sign. And the existing Crest Hill site, I just wanted to show you a couple things from there.
I don't have an issue with the sign.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so this is the approach. You can see the ID sign. We're asking for a smaller sign than this. Our sign is only 10 feet. And so we just want to emphasize on that. On the next slide it should be, well, this could stop here. This is the back of the building. This is nicer than a lot of fronts of buildings. So what we want to make an emphasis is that on all 4 sides of the building, it is a architecturally delineated and addressed feature. And then the next slide, you can see the signage there isn't standing out. It's in proportion, and you can see the vendor, which we do not know right now, but the vendor sign also would be in proportion to the building. We're saying that it's not garish, it's in proportion to the building, small logo. So again, you have your 3 businesses right here. You have your gasoline sales, your market, and then your kiosk. And so it's a function of really having 3 businesses on this site is what's driving the variance. Thank you.
And with that, I'll just kind of wrap up at least the prepared remarks. I'm sure there's going to be questions, but I'd just like to highlight the fact that at least it's my opinion that the overlay district recommendations, which many of these variances request are written at least in part to give the town a large amount of control over developments proposed in its most important corridor. So with that in mind, I hope the illustrations, the renderings, it's clear what product the petitioner intends on bringing to this property. And I think that, speaking for the building alone, I think it's very clear that he meets or exceeds the standard of construction that the town expects on 41. With that, I appreciate allowing me to go through all those. Minimal interruption. It's easier that way. We're happy to answer any questions.
No, I think I'll open up the public hearing.
Good evening, my name's Tom Plaskota. I own about 7 acres of Bingo Lake, adjacent to the property in discussion tonight. I sold the original property to, frontage to Barry Levin. And when he was going through his process for approvals, he had told me that the town of St. John was willing for him to utilize Bingo Lake for drainage, stormwater drainage. But he felt it was appropriate for him for me to deed that over to him, which I agreed to do, but when his plans fell apart, we stopped that process. So about a week ago, I was notified of this hearing and communicated with James. He gave me Mr. Manhani's email address, and I extended that same offer to them, that if they want to utilize that property, if it works to the town's benefit, I'd be willing to do that. But if that doesn't happen, in the past, the town of St. John has held me accountable for, obviously, the condition of the property. So I do have some concerns with some of the things that James presented. Again, if they were willing to make that part of their development, then my points would be moot, because it would just be between you and James, basically. So I can go through my concerns now, or save them for a later time.
No, you can stress your concerns now.
Okay. So the first thing is with I assume that the refuse storage, there's a reason that the town, I'm not familiar with the St. John Code, but I assume there was a reason that it originally required a roof on it. And if I'm to maintain ownership of Bingo Lake, I would have, with the prevailing westerly winds that St. John is subject to, should any debris come loose, that would be blown into the lake. And I assume everyone here is aware that the lake is deeded as a natural preserve area. So I would have, I don't know what the concern or what their need would be to eliminate the roof, but I would have concerns about that. It also stated that there would be practical difficulties with not putting the roof on, and I didn't know what the practical difficulties would be with that, with having the need to put the roof on.
So if you'd like to go through your concerns, James can take notes and
Okay.
answer your questions then.
Okay, that'd be fine. So, well, that's one. Regarding the landscaping screening requirements, again, we got a difference of 2 different property uses, a commercial property versus a natural area. And so, again, practical difficulties were cited, and I don't understand what the difficulties are with providing that screening for Bingo Lake and for the residents around there.
I do not disagree with you on that one.
I do have concerns about the proximity of the drive-through lanes, more from a customer safety standpoint. The drive-through lanes go adjacent to the lakefront there, and I don't know what their plans are for that little bit of land there, if there's going to be a curb or signage or what that is, but that would be something that I would, from a safety standpoint and liability standpoint, would have concerns about that. As far as the residential buffer, stated here that Bingo Lake will serve as a natural buffer. Bingo Lake's not part of this project, so I see a disconnect between James using this as part of their buffer without taking possession of the property. If it's their property, they're going to do what they want with it. If it's my property, I think the buffer should be incorporated on their side of the property line.
If I'm seeing correctly, some of Bingo Lake is in their property line, am I correct?
That is correct. So this here is the property line. This is the water line. So there is a subsection of Bingo Lake, or a
Let's say
section
that-
of it.
That's not out of line saying that some of that is served as a buffer, because part of Bingo Lake is within their property limits.
As is a greater portion of my property is part of Bingo Lake, so I'm representing my part of the
I
property.
get it, but it's not a fictitious statement. It's a factual statement by them saying that it is a buffer because it is in their property limits.
Even my 7 acres would be considered?
I'm just stating facts, sir, that's all.
Well, I'm just trying to get clarification. Okay, well, those are the things that I highlighted. So unless you have any questions for me, I'll just thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have anything?
Good evening, Jack Slager, 8625 Stonegate Court. I'm speaking tonight as a resident of St. John and a concerned neighbor. I'm absolutely not opposed to a gas station at this site. I believe it's a good use for the corner. I understand that it is a challenging site, and that a number of variances are required no matter what the development would be there. What I am opposed to is 3 specific areas out of the 24 or 25 variances that they requested. Number 1 being the argument that no sidewalks are needed because they don't want to encourage pedestrian traffic. The site is directly adjacent and across the street from Lake Central High School. You have students already that are patronizing the Speedway gas station directly north. They cross 41. This property abuts Speedway, and you would get students would be walking in 41 to get to this property. So I believe that a sidewalk is necessary and called for. There is actually a crosswalk already at 85th Avenue, or there's a sidewalk actually stubbed north on 85th Avenue. And I believe that it should be done in that spot. The argument of no bike racks, same thing. There are going to be people riding their bikes there. I live nearby. I would ride my bike there to get a lottery ticket. I think they should have bike racks. And then lastly, the no landscaping requirements. Numerous variances requested for no landscaping. I know some of these arguments were used also when Levin Tire was in here a number of years back, but this property is on the north end of St. John. It's one of the first things that people see as they come into St. John. We have an opportunity to do a nice development here. I believe the ditch could be filled in, should be filled in, culverted, whatever. That would allow for the sidewalk to go in, that would allow for front landscaping to go in, and we could get rid of the unsightly weedy ditch that has plagued that corner for years, get rid of the rusty dented guardrail that is on that corner, and turn that into a welcoming site for St. John. So
Some of that ditch is probably NDOT property, though. And NDOT may not allow for some of that on 41.
there's probably a way to do it. So I
Yeah.
would
With-
ask that they do it. I know
Get an
that,
answer from NDOT 3 years from now.
yeah, maybe. I just don't think that a hardship is a cost, should be based on cost, that it costs too much to fill in the ditch or whatever the other reasons. I believe it should be beautified on that corner rather than leaving an unsightly ditch that's going to be difficult to maintain. I don't think they would want it in front of their business, and so those are my concerns. Thank you.
Hello, Ken Drenth, 8540 Stonegate Court. I think this is a great site for a gas station like this. I understand every development needs variances. I echo pretty much what Jack just said. I think a sidewalk at a minimum off the corner would be their southwest corner, perhaps. And the landscaping is a concern. I'd like to see as much as they could do. I realize it's tough, but it should be beautiful. It's St. John, so thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment?
There was nothing received, written correspondence for this item.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and close it to public comment. I don't know what you gentlemen think, but I do agree with those gentlemen. I don't agree with the no landscaping. I don't agree with the planting. There's plenty of areas for trees if that was the plan they were going to go with. And I also don't agree with the no sidewalks because, like he said, so just east of Coling Drive, there is those townhouse subdivision over there. I travel that road daily as well, and I see people walking dogs and things of that nature. So I think he's correct. People will use that, and there is a lot of kids from the school, particularly football games, over at the Speedway. So I personally don't think we should eliminate the sidewalk, the landscaping, or the trees.
So just for a minor detail, the request is to allow for no pedestrian or bicycle path through the property. The sidewalk would come at time of primary plat, and they would have to request a waiver from the plan commission. So that would be that one. So this one for tonight would literally just be for the waiver from the pedestrian path through the property
Correct.
versus sidewalks.
Correct. I don't think we should eliminate that with, like I said, there's houses right over here.
Well, she's saying that it would be like a bike trail is what the variance is for, not the actual sidewalks to service
Right.
the other way. So if we didn't want them to have a loop bike trail on the site, we would have to do the bike path variance tonight.
I got you.
Because the sidewalks would be on like the site plan for the plan commission for the waiver there.
Okay.
Can I ask a procedural question, both for the petitioner and my own knowledge? So obviously, as you've identified, some of these landscaping variances are blanket variances, in which I realize on paper and legally say I don't have to provide any trees. If the BZA is to vote no on this, does that preclude them from maybe having a different opinion at a future BZA hearing where a landscaping plan is demonstrated, and if I am short, I can quantify how much it is and potentially re-entertain their approval at a later date?
So if they deny it and you do not change the request, it requires a year cool down period. If there is a substantial change to the original request, you can appear in front of them before then. And then the other thing, and Adam can correct me on this one if I'm wrong, it's been a minute on this question, would be if we advertised for the blanket request, if you decide to then ask for a reduction based off of, say, site plan consideration by the plan commission for the plantings, trees, all that to be determined by the layout of the official engineered site plan, would that be something that would be able to be done?
Yeah, no, I believe you've correctly stated the 12-month period for basically the same request. There is the stand-down period, and I do believe that you've correctly stated what can be reviewed as part of site plan, ultimately, if that's presented to the plan commission.
So is it safe to assume that even if they were to deny a blanket variance, that I could come back in less than a year and ask for a very specific?
If there's a
None.
substantial change, yes.
That would be, I would hopefully a substantial, that's what I'm getting at. I don't want to,
Or it could be that they grant an approval and a reduction in the amount based on the approval of a approved engineered site plan at plan commission. So they're not granting the full variance, but they're granting a reduction in the amount, and the amount is to be determined with site plan process.
I'm,
And that would be if the board's amenable to an emotion like
Sure.
that.
I hope everybody understands. I just don't want a denial today to, because I'll be the first one to admit, I don't have a landscaping plan today.
Right.
I wish I did, but that's kind of how some of these projects move. You don't dive in head first right off the bat. I agree, it would make decisions like that a lot easier to make.
And today, it's asking for no planting.
I understand that, yes.
That's not, to me, that's not an option.
So would he be able to withdraw the landscaping related ones? And then we just
He could.
Could be other ones.
That would be another option, is to withdraw any landscape required,
I'd withdraw those in the shade tree.
landscaping, any landscape-related variance request, because then it's not a denial, it's not an approval, it's not an approval contingent upon something else. It's they withdrew that section of the petition, and then they can file again at a later time. It's, at that one, it would be at the direction of the petitioner, if that's what they would like to see.
The dumpster, I agree with the no.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
not a fan of the enclosure. All the dumpsters have their own lids on them.
I really-
It creates more of a headache and a safety issue trying to pull those dumpsters out of those.
to get them on the truck to dump them, yep.
And if you wouldn't mind, I'll kind of breeze through that. I did not intend to breeze through the remonstrator's comments, so if I can run through that real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
You just started talking about the garbage container. That's come with a number of past developments. A roof includes easy vehicular pickup, which is how most of the bins are emptied by commercial garbage haulers. The Mr. Plaskota mentioned the screening on Bingo Lake. I think it's just more of a matter of a difference of opinion whether you consider screening to be true screening, or you can also interpret sheer distance to be screening enough. I think it's a matter of opinion. I'll leave it at that. Proximity of the drive-through lanes to the lake. I mean, we won't know until we have the flood elevation, but I mean, we're a reasonable distance away from the water line, as it will be a curbed drive-through lane back there. Residential buffer, I think that's, again, I mean, I'll be the first to admit it's a matter of opinion. Mr. Slager and Mr. Drenth both more or less said the same thing. I think the sidewalks have some pros and cons. I think we've discussed that previously, and we're discussing the landscaping right now.
So are they going to eliminate these? Are we going to proceed with landscape?
I guess see if he'd withdraw.
Are you going to withdraw the landscape?
I guess I realize this is not supposed to be a negotiation, but I do have some I'm totally fine withdrawing right now. I'm not quite sure. I guess I know we're not supposed to negotiate. I think some of the screening related to the northeast corner, I think.
Well, that one just asked for no screening, so obviously, you know.
But we wouldn't screen on the roadsides anyways. That's what I'm getting at.
Correct.
I think for the sake of at least giving the petitioner some confidence going ahead, are you ready to take these down? 24-518D, 24-519B, 24-519C, 24-525A1, I'm gonna stop there, and I did not leave all of them, and we can keep adding to that list if we need to. I would like to keep on 24-525C1. That was discussing the planting areas around the actual structure, which again, accommodating that would probably expand the site and either shrink in a landscaping area we might try to gain back on 41 or push us too close to the lake. So I would appreciate keeping that under consideration. We can remove 24-526A, was related to the perimeter landscaping. The only other landscaping item I would like to keep under consideration is 24526B1. That was, we discussed about the landscaping islands and that we, within a parking lot, and that we really don't have one. I do not see
Yeah, and
achieving that number now or in the future.
Or C1, I don't disagree with that one either. All right, Adam, do you want us to go through these one by one?
So, the first one I'd recommend doing would be the 24-45 that's related to the use variance. That one would be a recommendation to the town council, and it would be favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation. And then any motion, make sure to include the ability for if a favorable, a gas station with a drive-through.
I'll make a motion to make a favorable recommendation to the town council to allow a gas station with a drive-through in the US 41 overlay district. Approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare of the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The need for the variance will arise from some condition peculiar to the property. The applicant did establish that the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought. The petitioner has established that approval does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan of the town of St. John.
I have a favorable motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. I have a motion and a second. Everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
And then just to clear up the record, the rest of the remaining are 24-194, 24-344, 24-346, 24-346, item 1, 24-346, item 5, 24-34, item B, 24-34, item B1, 24-34, B2, 24-353, 24-354, 24-355, A1, 24-195, B2A, 24-516E2, 24-525C1, 24-526B1, 24-555E1A, 24-555E1B, 24-555E2C. Did I get all those right, James?
I think so.
I didn't hear you say 24-518E.
That was one of the ones that was removed. I
Yeah,
think you said D and it was
removed that
E.
one.
Okay, so D remains?
Oh, no, it was E. So, yeah, he kept 24-518E. My apologies.
D should be removed as well.
It was D that was removed, not E.
I'll ask the question again, Mr. Chair. Is 24-518E withdrawn?
Yes.
And is that concurred by the petitioner?
Yes, tonight I'm more interested in getting most of the answers, and I think that seems the best route.
So 518E is removed, and that's been withdrawn.
That's
So if
correct.
I understand correctly, Mr. Chair, there are 6 items that are being withdrawn?
Correct. 518E, 518D, 519B, 519C, 525A1, and 526A. Is that correct?
That is what I have written down as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So can we do these in a bulk favorable or unfavorable recommendation for the rest, Ashley?
These would be strictly board approval, so you would either be approving or denying.
And you can take them as a bulk, however, there would be no, I guess, any specific conditions. If I know there was a question about conditions, and I don't know if any of those conditions would apply to the remaining requests.
those are-
Ashley, which one was to allow no screening requirements on the east property boundary?
I will check, but I believe that was one we pulled. It's my opinion that that falls under 24519B, which was one that was pulled.
519B, is that
Yes.
accurate, Ashley? Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
I would concur with that one.
I am okay with the rest, if you gentlemen are. That's correct. I'm okay with the rest.
Yeah,
Minus
I
the
think-
ones he removed.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to grant a favorable approval for the remaining variances sought. Approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare of the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The strict application of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties with the use of the property.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
I have a motion and a second. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you very much.
All right, we will move to new and old business.
I have nothing tonight.
Okay. Again, I'll open the floor to any public comment. I think everyone's talked out. We'll close the floor to public comment. All right, September 3rd's BZA meeting is adjourned.